like, now we're just going in.
Well, I'll give the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, Will Friedle and Ryder Strong, Boy Meets World. So Will unfortunately told us that no Boy Meets World questions.
Yeah, we'd rather not talk about Boy Meets World or Batman Beyond or any movies Ryder's been in. We wanted to talk mostly about Lou Ferrigno. And maybe some Chuck Norris. And, yeah, see?
Start lining up. If you have any questions, where's the microphones right here, so start lining up, but I'll ask you a couple of questions. So obviously, the show is based in Philly, but you shot in Los Angeles. How do you feel like they portrayed Philadelphia?
That's so funny. Somebody asked me today where I thought the show took place within Philadelphia, and I was like, we have no idea. We really dropped the fact that it was based in Philly after. I mean, the first couple seasons, Corey was a Phillies fan, and like we made all these references, but then all the local references just kind of dropped away. Like, where's Pembroke University? Like, where is it exactly?
No, that's what they would do, is they would go, of course you're in Philly, here's your hat. Right. So you'd put on the Phillies hat, and it's like, we're in Philly, but that was kind of it. I mean, I would have preferred if they had done some more kind of cool Philly.
Right, but it was cool to come back. I first came to Philly to do a movie like 9 or 10 years ago, and it was amazing, like the amount of people that there were more fans in Philly than anywhere else. I was like, oh wow, of course, like it actually makes sense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Philly during like the show?
No. The only time we went on location with the show was when we did the Disney World episodes.
Excuse me. I'd like to amend that. You went on location. It was always they'd come in and go, hey, Ryder, Ben, Danielle, guess where you're going? Oh, that's awesome. Will, you're gonna stay here with a dummy that looks like Ben, and you're gonna pretend that you're not. It's like, oh, another trip I can't go on. Sweet. Yeah.
That's right. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Shut down whole sections of the Disney World for us.
Yeah.
It was a great trip.
We had a good time on set that day.
Yeah.
And then, that's the other thing is people don't realize is the actual house where the show takes place, the Matthews house, was literally directly across the street from the studio that we shot at. So we would drive every day by the Matthews house, just the outside. I mean, it was somebody's house, but they just sold it.
Yep.
And it was on the market in LA as by the Matthews house from Boy Meets World. Yeah, so it was kind of neat that was there.
I mean, obviously they film a lot of different shows in that lot. Being kids, were there any shows that you kind of were geeking out over that were filming close?
Well, we used to play football with all the Home Improvement kids.
Every day. That was our gym class.
They were right next door to us. We actually shot our pilot in the same stage as Home Improvement. And then when they picked us up, we moved in next door.
And then we moved every 2 years.
Yeah, every 2 years we changed lots. So we started at Disney lot, and then we were at KTLA, which was like a local news lot.
And there was
the
nothing
only show,
around.
there.
They literally said, I'll never forget that they came in there like the first day, like, okay, so we're gonna bring in lunch, because if you don't want lunch, there's 2 places to eat around here, and one of them was literally a strip club. Right. And it was like, ooh, the Tuesday buffet at the strip club's probably not gonna be great for a bunch of 15-year-olds, so we'll find another place to eat. But yeah, that was in the middle of just nowhere.
Yeah.
And then we were at
CBS Radford, which we were right next
to
Seinfeld.
Literally next to Seinfeld. They filmed right next to us. And Third Rock from the Sun was right next to us. And yeah, the song you guys were singing when we came in, that opening title sequence is shot on the New York street that built from Seinfeld.
Right.
So that's the same street where that Jerry and Elaine and everybody was. So that was a ton of fun. I loved that a lot.
Yeah.
I
Did
mean,
you
Disney
ever
was like
actually
a
go
campus.
onto other stages and like check out and talk to people?
I was on Third Rock from the Sun. I did an episode of Third Rock, so I got to know them, and then I didn't really know anybody from Seinfeld. The greatest thing that happened was that John Cleese was on Third Rock, and John Cleese, obviously is like the greatest comedian, one of the greatest comedians ever from Monty Python. Hugely tall, like he's 6'5", 6'6", and I saw him outside, and I said, I have to go talk to him. And I went up and I said, Mr. Cleese, I don't even know what to say. I'm such a huge fan of yours, and I just wanted to introduce myself. And he said, what show are you on? And I said, I'm on a show called Boy Meets World. And he looked right at me and he went, oh yes, unfortunately I've heard of it. And turned and walked away. And he turned and walked away. And I remember sitting there for about 5 seconds until I went, he just insulted me. That's the greatest thing ever. So excited. I was so excited. So yeah, you had little Hollywood moments like that on sets like that, which was really cool. Jeff Goldblum coming up and grabbing Bill. I don't know, were you there that day? Just grabbing Bill and like ripping him to the side. And Bill's like, who is it? Oh, it's Jeff. Like that. Every time we do a Bill Daniels impression, by the way, we become British for some reason, which we don't understand.
We can do it. I actually asked him when we were doing the pilot if he was from England, and he was like, "No, I get that a lot though."
He's so proper. Is that proper? Like he's like Charles Winchester from MASH. Yeah.
Let's get into a couple questions.
Well, so I read once that you two couldn't have scenes together because you constantly made each other laugh.
That is true.
What did you do to each other? Like, what did you play?
We just couldn't take each other seriously.
That's what it was.
Like,
It wasn't pranks.
No, it wasn't like we were trying to make each other laugh. We would literally just look at each other, and it would just lose it.
It was also such diametrically opposed characters. So they would either be an episode where it'd be a scene where it's like, well, we've got to make Sean a little wackier, which didn't work, or we have to make Eric a little more serious, which didn't work.
No.
Right.
So you'd have scenes where it's like, you know, I remember the one specifically where you're like, Sean's dad just died. And the lines they had to write were like, you're like, I'm upset. And I think my line was, cause you're dead, Dad, Sean. I mean, they had to make it ridiculous for us to even be in the same kind of realm.
And a lot, I mean, whenever they did write scenes or beats between the two of us, a lot of acting with Will on the show was just trying to keep a straight face while he said stuff like that. And I think Will and I, you know, we became best friends really quickly, and especially by the end of the show, we were just hanging out outside of the set all the time. And so I think he just knew when I was trying to keep it together so well that he would lose it. It was a disaster.
Yeah. We knew how to push each other's buttons. As actors, especially actors that are together that long, you start to know the little buttons you can push that are either fun, like really funny. There were buttons with Ben and Danielle that you could push that would get them mad. And after a while, if you're bored, you kind of go, I'm going to push that button tonight and see what happens. It's just, you do. We were siblings.
We were just quoting the Dutch lines that Sean said. Does anybody remember the Airbnb or the B&B episode where suddenly Sean can speak Dutch? Well, Will and I took a trip to Amsterdam together when I was 16 and he was 18, and that was the only Dutch we knew. Was those 2 lines.
That's the only Dutch you knew.
That's the only Dutch I knew. So it's like throw it in the air and see how light it is. So we would just walk around Amsterdam and I'd be like, "Hoy het in de lucht and see it for yourself how big it is."
Yeah, it was. Ryder?
Ja, in feite alles in je ziet is te koop. Which means everything you see is for sale.
That was it. That's all he knew. And so walk around, Ryder just going, everything you see is for sale.
Nobody would get this when we were just in the green room, and I was like, "Oh, you did it."
Just laughing hysterically. But yeah. So scenes with us did not always go well. To say it got, you know when it got better, I think, or at least more manageable, is when it was all of us together. Because then it was okay. Then it was like we could look at somebody else. I could be looking at you and about to laugh.
Or
and then
all
look
of
at Matt
production
Lawrence
would
and
grind to a
yes,
halt.
that
Like when
was
we
the
shot
other
the
problem.
horror episode, the Scream episode is what we called it, right?
That was kind of all of our favorite episodes.
It was our
yeah.
favorite episode to shoot because it was just so bizarre, and they really just let us do whatever we want. And we had no audience because it was taking so long. And I mean, the poor crew just got so angry with us.
And that was you know what I didn't realize until I talked to him about it? That was like one of Matt Lawrence's, that was his first season. So he said he credits that episode with feeling like he was part of the team.
Right.
Where it was like he was one of us, which he never was. I'm kidding. I say that with much love to Maddie. But yeah, he was like, he credits that with, we were all together for the first time and kind of,
It's the most fun.
yeah, we had an absolute blast during that episode. And I think there's almost not a scene in that show that you can watch where one of us isn't laughing or looking like you're gonna laugh. So go back and watch it again. You're going, laughing. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Actually, I have a request and a question. The question is, do you think we'll ever get a reunion? Like just one episode or like a short TV movie?
God, I mean, you know, we're still so fresh off Girl Meets World that it's hard to say. And I know that there was a big fan push to try and get Girl Meets World on Netflix or Hulu, and it's not happening. So I don't know. I think it'd be fun. I mean, at this point, we already all got together for the last episode of Girl. It was so fun.
There was kind of that reunion at the end of Girl.
but I mean, who knows? Maybe 5-10 years from now.
Yeah,
Who knows? We're not going to close the door on that.
Sorry, no request. They'll be at their booth all weekend.
Well, now I want to know what the request was.
Sophia's fault.
I was just gonna ask you in your Batman Beyond voice to record like a school alarm for me.
Oh, yeah, I'll be at the table. Come back.
Everything did end so perfectly with Girl Meets World. However, if the show was given a chance to continue, where would you want to see your characters go in that season?
Well, I really thought I was bummed that the Mr. Turner Sean stuff kind of got rushed in at the end there,
Yeah.
you know, because like Tony, the fact that Mr. Turner just disappeared from Boy Meets World was always so horrible. It was like he had been a regular, he'd been such a huge part of Sean's life, and then
And
he had
good,
the-
like a good friend of ours,
Right,
too.
of course, the actor, yeah, and then to have him like in a motorcycle accident, and it's like an episode where I'm joining a cult and finding God. It's like so weird, and then like never have him, have him back. So I remember saying like, well, we have to do like where he actually adopts me, or we reconnect, or and then yeah, because Girl Meets World got canceled, and I think we were all really hoping for one final year. And that would have been a good chance to finish that storyline. I would have liked to have done more with that. I mean, we just kind of had one moment where we hug at the final show, but
Yeah, which
I would
was
have liked the
nice.
whole episode about it.
I agree.
And then I would have loved to. I mean, I love working with Sabrina so much, and like the idea of Sean Hunter like really dealing with being a dad. Like I think there would have been some good comedy in there.
I think so, too.
And like coming to Corey for father advice. Like I don't know, just, it could have kept going, and that would have been fun.
Yeah. Eric would have been president of the United States by the end of the season. Absolutely would have been.
So you say the Halloween episode was your favorite to shoot. Would that be your favorite as a whole as well?
This is a tough question.
Yeah, we always get this one.
I mean, I actually think the episode "Chick Like Me" is a pretty solid episode.
That was a good
and, like,
episode,
the
yeah.
fact that it's still relevant, and
Yeah.
like people still talk about that, and it's just it's a funny sort of romp, but then it actually has a really kind of a nice message where Sean gains a perspective on what it's like to be a girl, and it wasn't super fun to shoot. Like I remember,
No, I
being
remember you
very
had-
uncomfortable.
you had a
well, because
tough week,
everyone
I
kept being
remember that.
like, "You're so pretty as a girl." I'm like, come on.
Well, it's tough when you walk in and all of a
15.
sudden I'm attracted to you. It's a tough week.
Yeah.
But you did. You
In
had a tough time, I
retrospect,
remember that.
that was a great episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your favorite?
For different reasons, I had a number of different ones for different reasons, but the one the kind of storyline that stuck out to me was the Tommy stuff. When Eric was going to adopt Tommy, I think that was that was kind of an interesting whole cross section of the
It
show.
was nice that Eric got an emotional.
Yeah, it was always like, I always felt it was like you guys had your show and it was like, here's the dark Boy Meets World, and then it's like, and now dance Will. That's always, for a lot of it, that's what it seemed like it was like. So to have them say, all right, I remember I would get one episode a year based entirely around me, where I was the A story because Ben had to take his finals.
Take his finals at school.
So final week would come up and I knew that it was like, ooh, it's my episode, because Ben's gonna go fail chemistry or something. He didn't. He ended up going to Stanford as a pretty smart guy. But that was the week where I knew it was something was gonna happen, and they try to push the Eric character forward. Because Eric, there was no character. I mean, it was just.
Which ended up being great.
Which
But the
was
first-
the character.
Right, but
I
the
mean, it
first
was-
year, the whole basis of Boy Meets World, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but was because you had seen it in a lot of shows like Wonder Years and Growing Pains, and it was either focused on the youngest kid or the oldest kid, like the older, and they really wanted to focus on the middle kid. Like that was the whole concept of Boy Meets World. It was like, what about the guy in the middle? And yet Will's character sort of like they didn't know what to do with him for so long.
Well, it was like he was the cool, like, I had a different girl every week, and
Right.
then that was the first season, and like people looked at that and went like, that doesn't make any sense. And then it all started, I think, there was one episode where for some reason Eric was hooked up to a machine, and then a mouse was hooked up to a machine, and the mouse had more brain waves, and that's when it took a sharp turn in a different direction. And then it was kind of
Just
the greatest
absurd.
thing in the world, because I do cartoons and I love doing cartoons. It was a living, breathing cartoon character. That's all that Eric was. So it was. I don't think I ever won the note. Eric, I never got the note as an actor, and Eric would never get the note. Pull it back a little bit, like that. Just
No, it was
didn't
almost like
exist.
the writers and Will were sort of engaged in this like one-upsmanship of like, how far can we push Will? Like, how far will he go? You know?
And it was like, oh, you want to push? Well, let's see what happens.
You know, because you think about it, they would write things like, you know, he stands at the fence and yells, Feeny, 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 and exclamation points. That's all that would be in the script, you know. And then what Will would do was create the Feeny call. So then they was like, next week we got to bring that back.
And that was the thing. And then by the time you're done, it was 3 words that turned into 90 seconds of film. It's like, you want to keep rolling? I'll do it. No, I can't do it. No, I gave it. I passed it to the girls. The girls now have the Feeny call. That's theirs officially on Girl Meets World. So you have to ask them. But no, it was a ton of fun doing the show. I mean, it was strange at times, and somebody asked me the other day, what was the biggest fight you can remember having with the cast? And I couldn't remember one. Can you?
Oh, yeah.
Can you really? Like a cast fight? Like really like
Oh,
a
you
cast,
mean like
we were
people-
all like mad at each other? Can you remember that happening?
But it wasn't about the work. I mean, just like, you know, Ben and Danielle and we were younger than you.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember like making each other cry in school, like.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was just, you know, kid stuff. It was, you know, we were together for 4 hours a day doing school
Yeah.
and then also acting together constantly. And, you know, Danielle was 11 when the show started.
She
so-
was easy to make cry anyway.
So I remember emotions running high. Like, I definitely remember.
I don't
like,
remember fights though. Like I don't remember that kind of.
I do. Like,
Wow,
it
that's
was definitely
amazing.
like, it was like being a family, you know? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the way
yeah.
you remember, like, making your brother or your sister cry when you were 12 and 13. Like, we definitely made each other cry.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah.
I'm glad there's an answer to that because somebody asked me that.
But I
was
can't
like,
remember
don't
what they were about. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I have a singular, you know,
No.
event or, you know, no.
That was
But,
weird. Yeah, we had a very mellow, like, relaxed kind of set. We weren't that. You never walked on. There was like, oh, there's drama today. It was like that. I don't recall that at all.
No, it was a really fun
Yeah.
set.
So the only thing better than the memories I have of Boy Meets World growing up is getting to share and bond with my son over Girl Meets World, so thank you guys for that. My 6-year-old who couldn't be here, he wanted me to ask you what your favorite Feeny advice was over the years.
It's a really good question.
That was my question too.
That's awesome.
His name is Bryston, by the way, if you can just say hi to Bryston.
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 Bryston. Great question. Yeah. Way
Yeah,
to
for a
stump
6-year-old,
up
by the way.
Bryce.
That was
Yeah.
a question from a 6-year-old.
Greatest Phoenix.
I don't know. It's really hard to beat, you know, his last lines, you know, dream, try, do good, which, like, I've seen people have tattoos of that. I've seen people make necklaces out of it.
Their
and bracelets.
graduation caps.
Right,
I've seen a
graduation
lot of
cap.
that.
I mean, like, I really think, I mean, that was just, and I love the way that that actually played out in the scene where I think it's Danielle's character says, don't you mean do well? And he says, no, do good.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cool
Yeah, that
part.
was great.
Um,
Yeah, but I don't know. It's so fun. Here's the thing I would say about that. It was so hard for me to dissect Feeny from Bill
Yeah.
because we were getting advice from Bill Daniels as the actor every day, whether it was actually spoken or just by example.
His professionalism.
His professionalism and you know, he never treated us like we were kids. We were actors. We were his fellow actors. So I don't know. Feeny gave great advice, but Bill gave phenomenal advice too. And just, you know, he's one of those guys who you're a professional. I don't care how old you are. You're here to work. You're here to do a job. And, you know, he'd say, I remember, it was like the Customato kind of advice where, you know, Customato asked Mike Tyson one time, what's the definition of a professional? And Mike Tyson said, oh, it's when you get paid. And he said, he stopped him. He said, it has absolutely nothing to do with money. He said, a professional is somebody who goes there every day and does their job no matter what they're feeling inside. And that's kind of how Bill was. We never got that side of him. If his call time was 9 a.m., he was there at 7:30. He never missed a line. He never missed a mark. He was a professional. I mean, a consummate professional. And I think I'd gone to shows after that and done shows after that where I worked with people my own age who did not have that work ethic. No. And you saw it instantly where it was like, yeah, I know it's supposed to be here at 9, but it's 11 and I'm rolling in. Ooh, that wouldn't have worked on our set. Not at all. And he would have stopped you with a look. He never would have yelled, but just with a look, like, that's not how we play here. And it was... So I almost look more to Bill advice than I did Feeny advice, to answer your question in a really long roundabout kind of way.
That's
Yeah.
the Eric way.
Okay.
Wasn't he the head of the Screen Actors Guild for a little bit?
Yeah,
too?
he became
Yeah.
the president right as the show ended.
Yeah, we were helping
during a
like,
commercial
helped him
strike.
with
Yeah.
helped him with the campaign and all that kind of stuff.
You helped him with the campaign.
Sure.
Wow.
Don't you remember we like stuffed envelopes and did all that kind of stuff? Yeah.
I mean, he's a senator.
That's great.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
thank you.
I'd just like to point out that there's Yoda back there, and Yoda just looks bored. Just straight back asleep. Yoda just looks sound asleep. Only at a con, it's the greatest thing where you just glance back and there's Yoda. It's just, listen to you, I cannot. It's just crazy.
Hi, my name is Katrina, and
Hi, Katrina.
question is actually for Will. I understand that you did a lot of voice acting for like Batman Beyond,
Mhm.
Unstoppable, and all that. So which would you prefer? Would it be the voice acting, or would it just be on TV?
They're complete. Actually, there's a lot of things that people don't know. Is writer's actually done quite a bit as well.
I also see that.
They're completely different. They really are completely different. It would be like somebody saying to you, "What do you like better, pizza or cake?" They're both great, and they're both technically food, but they're both completely different.
Which one's cake and which one's pizza?
That's the question. Well, I like to have my cake and eat my pizza too. There's something about when you're a live action, do live action stuff, when you're on a television show, especially like a Boy Meets World, where we had an audience every week. So to be able to get that instant gratification of knowing you hit the perfect joke and going out and hearing the audience wailing and screaming and crying and having a great time, or literally crying, hearing one of my favorite responses of a Boy Meets World episode is when Danielle's character, when Topanga comes back she moves to Pittsburgh, and she comes back from Philadelphia, and they open the door and she's standing in the rain for Corey, and you hear the whole audience go, it's the great, and it's genuine. It's
Right,
like
it was live.
it was done live, and you get that kind of instant satisfaction. There's also the joy of working with your fellow actors in that kind of way. Voiceover is just pure acting. It's just you and the microphone. It doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter, what you're dressed in. You don't have to wear makeup. It is just the wonders of you and a script. So I love them both, but they're completely different.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I love Boy Meets World, by the way.
Thank you.
I was wondering, with Girl Meets World, I know, Will Friedle, you wrote an episode and you directed. What was it like growing up with this and then going behind the scenes of the new one?
It was fantastic. It was really, I don't know. I've said it before. It was kind of like time traveling back to your high school, and like being able to this time know what's going on. They had the same writing staff, so the same creator, obviously. But then he also brought like 5 of the writers from Boy Meets World back, and then the kids had the same studio teacher that we had. There was the same script supervisor. So it was so bizarre to be like, sitting there looking at Ben, who's now an adult, me being an adult, and then all these people that we grew up with back again to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it, for me, like a big part of it, the most satisfying part of that was watching these young actors and being able to try and be a positive influence on them, and being so aware of what I appreciated from the adults around me, especially the directors, because I was directing them. Encouraging them to take chances, encouraging them to be free, because there's a lot of, when you're a child actor, there's a lot of pressure to, just deliver the lines, like to just be a
Stand here and talk.
to be like a line delivery robot, it's like, and the Disney version that's like, smile big and express yourself, and like not really think about what you're saying, or not really feel any, or try and feel anything, just like it's all about the presentation. And, so my brother and I, we directed together, and we spent a lot of time with the kids because, the producers, they write the script, and then they come in for a run-through after you've spent all day rehearsing with the cast, and then you present it, and then they rewrite it, and then you do that again the next day, and then you film it. So the producers are only there for sort of the end result. So during the day, it would just be the director, me and my brother, and the kids, and we would just be like, what do you guys think? Like, let's try this one completely different. Let's every take make different, and to watch them, feel comfortable enough to take chances. I loved it when directors let me do that when I was an actor. And so being able to give that to them and then have conversations with them, of also like real life conversations. Like there were a few times where, we had done all the rehearsal for the day and we'd still have like an hour or two, and we'd just sit down and be like, what kind of actors do you guys want to be? You know, like look around, because, you know, no one was asking me that. And when Boy Meets World ended, I was like, oh, this industry sucks, and like ran off to college, you know, and I didn't want them to feel that pressure. I wanted them to, you know, already start thinking about these things. And so, I mean, you know, that was a way of giving back. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Writing's awful. It's just awful. I love it, but it's terrible. So it's a very, especially when you're writing with a whole group of people, because you're writing with 10, 15 people. I'm coming in as a guest writer. So, you know, kind of by the end of the day, you're realizing that you're just trying to get your jokes in where you can, and your storyline in where you can. And, you know, writing for on camera is like writing for Boy Meets World Girl Meets World was far more difficult than, you know, I wrote for Thundercats and I wrote for Teen Titans Go, and the one person who watched Thundercats, and Teen Titans Go and Transformers and stuff like that, and that's much more freeing. The animation writing is, you really are, hey, write your episode. There's a lot of fingers in the pie when you're writing on camera, so it's a completely different experience. But just like Ryder said, the greatest part is watching the kids. I mean, it really was. At one point, I know that the three of us were standing around, it was Ben, Ryder, and myself, and we were watching the kids, and one of us, and I honestly can't remember who, just said, that's us. I mean, we were watching us. It was, you're right, a bizarre time machine. Yeah, very, very cool to watch, and Yoda is still bored.
I'm just wondering, was there a reason why Girl Meets World was canceled?
That's a really good question. No, I mean, I think so. The company line is that, you know, Disney, it had sort of flatlined as far as Disney ratings were concerned. That being said, we were still the highest rated show on Disney. Well, so yeah. I'm not sure, you know, we don't know exactly. I think,
well, Disney is famous for having something called the 65 and out rule, which is no matter where your show is, no matter what happens, you hit 65 episodes and you're done.
Stupid rule.
Very. The first show, little trivia, the first show that ever went past the 65 rule was Kim Possible. And it did that because of the fans. It was completely and totally brought back for season 4 because of the fans. But before that, it did not matter what your show was, what your ratings were, and then that was it, 65 and you're done. Then they started to do things like the show with Miley Cyrus, which was making them $1 trillion a day. And then they go, well, why would we cancel this? But still, for the most part, they are kind of hard and fast when it comes to it. There's been different shows that have kind of gone for that kind of thing.
4 seasons is definitely their max, and part of that has to do with union. It's really boring, but labor union issues with crew. Disney is notoriously, they keep their Disney Channel shows very cheap, and they make them very cheaply, and so they have agreements with different contracts, so they never want to go over 100 episodes. But also, I think Girl Meets World started to get older for them. Their goal is to really keep an audience until, you know, but they want 6-year-olds to be able to watch their stuff and stay with them until they're 12. When they get over 12, they start phasing out, you know, the audience. And so I think they were worried that Girl Meets World would get into high school dating and things that Boy Meets World was able to deal with because you know, we were on a network, we were on ABC, and Disney was worried about the letters that they would get. And the other thing to consider is a lot of the Disney Channel shows, they can sell ancillary products, you know, toys. If it's a magic-based show, or if somebody on the show is a singer, they can make concerts. Girl Meets World didn't have any of those components, so I think Disney was kind of like, it did its thing.
Eric was magic.
Yes, he was.
Eric became a wizard. The show would have done.
Don't think I didn't pitch it.
Since both of you have done voiceover work, if you could be any superhero voiceover, who would it be and why?
I got my answer. Instantaneously.
You've already done Batman.
Well, no, because I wouldn't be a superhero. I'm always a superhero. I'd be a villain.
Yeah,
I'd be Cobra Commander in 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe. Answer.
Would you make him sound like the?
From the Cobra Commander. Yeah. Oh yeah. Destro. Greatest.
I've never thought. I mean, you know, I'd be the Joker. I'd be the Joker.
Yeah.
I'd be a villain too.
Gotta be a villain.
Yeah.
Be a fun one to play. Thank you. She'd be Storm, you can tell by the outfit.
Hello. I wanted to ask about the voiceovers. Do you have any rituals, either of you, like when you go in, like you have to have something like a certain drink with you or anything else in the studio with you while you do voiceover? Make more
I did, and it got in the way. I recorded the second half of Batman Beyond, almost every Kim sniffing glue. Most of the Kim Possibles, all of Transformers, and 2 other shows in their entirety wearing the same hat.
Jeez.
That
hat must be disgusting.
You have no idea. You have no idea. It was a hat.
I watched it.
No. And it was a hat given to me by Rob Schneider. And it was one of those things where I was doing the last episode of Thundercats, something like that, and Robin Atkin Downs, who played Mum-Ra, leaned over to me and said, "Hey man, you ever lose that hat, you're never gonna work again." And it got in my head. And so, like an addict, I weaned myself off of the hat. Would wear it a little bit, and then I'd put it on the stand next to me, and then it was just in the car, and now it's just at home. I'm sorry, I have to point her out. I see my wife in the back shaking her head, like, yeah, this stupid hat. But it was, and I would come in, she'd hear the car leave and drive down and then, I forgot my hat. So I did, and that had to go away.
Question. Yeah, I have no rituals, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I grew up watching Boy Meets World, and I'm also an aspiring actress. Do you have any acting advice? Either one of you?
Good question.
Yeah.
Wow. Acting is tough, you know, and it's not tough. Like, people think that the tough part is the actual acting, you know, the presentation, but it's a tough lifestyle, and mostly that just comes down to emotional resiliency and being able to take rejection.
That's very true.
And
very true.
So I would work on that more than anything, because you
Thick skin.
you can't think about whether you have talent or not. You can't worry about it. If you want to do this, you have to do it. You know, and it's one of those things that you should only be an actor if you can't not be an actor. And you know, if that's the way, because like for me, I can live the rest of my life not being an actor, and I know that means it's time for me to not act anymore. Whereas like my wife is like a lifelong actor, and she will only always be an actor. Like, it's such a core part of her. And you know, there have been years where she hasn't been able to get a job, you know, and now she's been working steadily for the last 5 years, and it's like, you just have to stick with it, and you have to be okay. The more you can enjoy the process of auditioning and taking chances, and that becomes fun for you. Like the actors I know have this fearlessness about them. Like the most successful actors I know have this fearlessness about them, where they walk into an audition and they're so willing to take chances, because they know that if they make the character or the script their own in some way, if they take the chance on something that they care, even if they don't get the job, they can walk away and be like, well, I don't want them, you know? One of the best stories I ever heard, and who knows if this is true, was that Marlon Brando was asked to do a Don Quixote movie. And he was at, you know, the peak of his career. This was in the 60s or whatever. And he said, okay, I'm gonna record for the director. He said, I'm gonna film myself doing the character 2 different ways. And if you pick the way I want to do it, I'll be in your movie. And it's such a weird way to think about it, but that's the way we should all think about it as actors, is why is the actor there to just give the producer or the director or the writer what they want? We should be bringing something to the character, and that's the best acting. And if they don't want it, then fine, you don't want that job, you know? And don't take it personally as much as possible, which is the hardest part. Because it's you, it's your body, it's your voice, it's your face, and you feel it. It feels so personal. And for me, like, it's not worth it. I hated that level of rejection.
You got it. He's right. I started in Connecticut. I was born in Connecticut, so I started auditioning in New York. So I would take a 3-hour bus ride down to New York. I would walk into a room. They'd look at me and go, "You're too fat." And I'd turn around and get a 3-hour bus ride back to Connecticut. And you go on to the next one, and you have to go, "Okay, I was too fat for that one." I mean, that's the way it works. And you have to go, "All right, thanks. On to the next one." It is. It's a tough business.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Break a leg. Good luck.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
It's too long. In any case, in some of the earlier episodes, they had you, Will, with Jason Marsden.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of wondering, like, why he eventually left.
He's a horrible person. Jason is a terrible human being. He steals things. He lies.
Was there ever really a reason, or is it just we had too many characters?
I think it was just had too many characters, and
Yeah.
Eric couldn't have one specific friend. By the way, Jason is one of my closest lifelong friends. This is for the record. Best man at his wedding was a yeah. So that's why I can tell you he's an awful. No, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the Gilmore shirt right now. Got the Critical Role going. Yeah, it was one of those things where we had a number of characters that did that. Alex Desire, the African-American actor who came in, was a teacher for,
second.
You get network notes. You literally do get network notes. Well, we need a, younger teacher to come in. Okay, here's Tony Quinn. Now now he's gonna need a friend. Okay, and then next thing you know, you got 14 cast members, and they go, okay, we can't. So people fell by the wayside, and then we made a joke about it. I'll never forget that. Was it you guys who talk about, it's like, Lee Norris comes back and he's like, you haven't spoken to me in 6 years. And then the guy, you don't want to go down there. And you go, hey, Mr. Turner. It was like, it was a pretty horrible joke when you think of it. It's pretty awful when you think about it. But that's how it was. People came in and they came out and by the end, even the parents weren't really in the show all that much. Because you kind of evolved past that. And yeah, it was strange. So no, there really wasn't any specific reason why Jay wasn't there. It just kind of, that character fell by the wayside, and Eric changed so drastically that he needed a different foil, and so they brought in Matt Lawrence.
Is that the same deal with the original Morgan?
No, she stole things.
She was not very happy.
She wasn't happy.
She's turned out to be she's actually an actor now, and she's great and loves acting. But at that time, she was just a little girl who did not want to be on the show anymore. And it was kind of like, the writers were like, is she, and he regrets not, Michael Jacobs, who created the show, regrets not continuing her character.
Yeah.
Because, she's turned out to be a great person. But at the time, she was a little girl who was not happy to be on the show. And it was like, we're not going to torture this kid.
Yeah, and she didn't want to be, she was a 5-year-old kid. He wanted to be a 5-year-old kid.
And Lee Norris, and that was another bummer. The Minkus character was so great the first season, but at the time Family Matters were still on, and there was this whole like Urkel phenomenon, and the creators of the show were like, we just can't do a whole another nerd, and so they moved away from that, which is too bad because
Lee's a great guy,
and a great actor. But
and
turned out to have
there
a
was
good
never
career,
anything. There was nobody left the show for any like personal reason ever. That's the God's honest truth. Nobody was like, oh, they've got to go because of. But it was always a network thing. Or just the size of the cast. Right. And so some characters, unfortunately, kind of fell by the wayside, which stinks, but...
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
So we got about 5 minutes left. We'll get these last 2 questions.
Hi, I actually have a question for Will. If they ever brought back the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon, would you voice it or write for it?
Yes and yes. Are you kidding me? In a second. Oh my God, would I do that? Yes and yes. Yeah. Thank you. Make a constitution check on your way back.
All right, so this is for Will. What was it like working with Matt Lawrence in AP Double Hockey Sticks?
He steals things. No. Matt's great. Matt and I got along very well. They kind of, again, they had their whole storyline. It was like kind of Corey and Topanga and John. And then it was just, I was out by myself. They put me with Bill occasionally, so it was kind of Eric and Feeney for a while, but that got a little weird. So they knew that they needed to bring somebody in, and then so they bring in Matt, who's the ultimate straight man. And we hit it off right away, and then they asked us if, hey, do you want to go do a movie? And I said, sure, what's it about? And they went, well, you're the devil, and you're, and he's an ice skater. And we went, okay. And we did HE Double Hockey Sticks, and it was coming right off of My Date with the President's Daughter, which turned out to be a really big movie for Disney. Thank you. No, Maddie's a great guy, and he's exactly. Matt Lawrence is one of those guys where I tell people, the person you saw on camera, that was actually Matt Lawrence.
Oh, buddy.
I know. He was just. He'd come in and he was Matt. He'd be an hour late. He'd go, oh, buddy, I was. There was a bee in my car. And, buddy, I had to stop and I couldn't get the bee out. And the bee brought friends. And by halfway through the story, you're just going, you were just late, right? Yeah, I was just late. But that was Matt. What you saw was what you got. There was no guile in Matt. He's one of the nicest. His whole family. I mean, really, you couldn't be nicer people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So lastly, I mean, Ryder, you have a production company with your brother.
Yeah.
Anything you want the fans to?
No, nothing. I mean, we've been steadily writing and producing stuff, but nothing that's actually gone to air or been filmed for theaters yet. So yeah, but we wrote a feature for Lionsgate. Who knows if they're actually going to make it? We sold a show to Amazon that did not get picked up. So we're pitching stuff constantly. So we'll get something out there. No, the only thing I have a podcast. If anybody's a book nerd out there, I have a podcast called Literary Disco, and we read all kinds of books. Will has been our fantasy correspondent because he's a big fantasy person. So there's an episode you can find, and we have 100. Yeah, I'll bring you back. We have 106 episodes, and we read everything.
I was on one.
He made us read like a 900-page book.
It's a fantasy novel.
Oh my god.
That was also book 1 of 40.
Yeah. It was good, but it was like, Will, come on.
I know, I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
I was
so-
on a great episode of that show, one of them.
How bored Yoda is. It's the greatest thing in the world. I can't get over it.
And Will, you're on like pretty much every cartoon that exists.
Not everyone. Right now, I've got some cool Scooby stuff happening, and I'm Star-Lord on Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm Bumblebee on Transformers. Thank you, person who likes Bumblebee on Transformers. And then some cool stuff, and as I've told people, we're still working on some things where I personally do not believe we've heard or seen the last of Eric Matthews. So I think there might be some stuff coming down the pipe that might be pretty interesting. There might not. I might just be a liar and thief. But I think there's going to be some pretty cool stuff.
Eric for president.
Give it up
Does
one
it
more
seem
time.
so crazy now, doesn't it?
Will Friedle, Ryder Strong.
Thank you guys so much.
They'll be here all weekend, so come see them Saturday.
Hey guys, before you all take off, we do have Geek Trivia Night coming up next. There will